Hi, everyone. Welcome to our quick drop in mental health hack of the day. My goodness, I'm so very excited to have my dear friend, Martin van Heerden, with us tonight or today, whenever you're watching this. Welcome, Martin. Thank you, my Scott. Thank you for being here.
It's exciting.
So now I have to introduce you, which I know that you cringe. Martin does not like introductions, but I'm completely going to blow his horn because this man is, I absolutely adore him. You are an absolute genius when it comes to dance and movement and your right brain. And then you've got this magnificent left part of your brain, the linear thinking, the analyst, that comes up and explores the most fascinating topics. And the way you've infused both of them, you are such a gift. And thank you for being here. Thank you for chatting with us and sharing your journey and your perspective on mental health and the work you do. So, Martin is a professional dancer. This man moves like no one else. Certified movement analyst and a somatic movement educator and an award-winning and nominated Naledi choreographer, and busy working on a really exciting project together, which he'll fill you in on. So we have got a gem of a human, Martin. Thank you again. So excited.
Hello.
Yay!
So excited.
Okay. So how did this mental health journey, this exploration of the work that you do, how did that all start?
Um, well, you know about my research project that I recently did for the Laban Institute in New York. Um, and that was to become a movement analyst. And when I did my research project, a lot of the stuff that we could do is how do we incorporate this work into choreography? How do we incorporate it into acting, singing? So it's very much theater and stage orientated work. But the work itself is about movement and the basic principles of movement from a spiritual, emotional, physical, anatomical level. And so I decided to challenge myself as I tend to do.
Yes, you
And I'm
do.
like, I don't want to do it about theater or choreography or a show, or I want to do it on the human energy system, the biofield, the human biofield. And because I'm also a Reiki practitioner and a Reiki master teacher, I decided I'm gonna go that route and I'm gonna see what happens if I apply these movement principles to the human biofield. And I did a whole research study, and the results was quite astounding, really, which you've heard all about, which
Yes.
we're talking about today. But also besides for that, when you asked me, I started thinking about where my journey started with my I won't say mental health. I would rather say my spiritual journey started. And it started, I write down the days. I'm on day 2138 of
That
deciding
left
that I'm
brain.
going to change my spiritual practices and be more disciplined, right? And so I
Amazing.
journal all the time. And that basically started because I went through a rough period where I literally went to that dark place. Um, I was physically not well. I was emotionally and mentally not well. Um, and I went to the doctor, and after about 5 to 10 questions, the doctor said, "Okay, I'm going to give you antidepressants because it seems like you." And then I remember going home, and I'm like, with the medicine next to me after I picked up the medicine, and I'm like, I'm not going to drink. I cannot have depression. I come from a family that has depression, and it's very big in my family. And so mental health is in my family. It's a big thing, and it's a big thing that I always have to be careful of and look at and but I was just like something inside me was just like, no, you cannot. I'm not going to drink this. I'm not going to start drinking this until I really feel that there's no other option, right? And so I started looking at all the spiritual stuff. I've always been a seeker of spiritual things, and I love reading the Bible and spiritual texts and combine and see where they all meet up. And you know me, I'm always trying to find the but why, but why, but
Yes.
why. And then I put the pills next to my bed, and it stayed there for a few years. Actually, it was next to my
Wow.
bed. Um, and I just started doing mental hacks. And I've done the whole gratitude thing. And I found like a few things that now, after the study that I did, and being a dancer and having embodied certain spiritual concepts, it makes sense to me. Um, and so yeah, now I'm here talking to you about it.
Amazing.
And I never drank the tablets. I was like, I don't want to change my brain chemistry.
Sure.
I'm not saying don't drink
Sure.
antidepressants if your doctor
Disclaimer.
prescribes you antidepressants. I just knew inside me what was wrong with me wasn't depression. It wasn't like a permanent mind thing. There was reasons. There had to be reasons, and there had to be ways to get out of it vibrationally and energetically. I had to kind of move myself out of it, and so I started my today 2138 day. I worked
I'm
it out
writing down
5 years and
that.
somewhere along 7 months.
Of course you did. I love that. Something that's come up as you were speaking, and you mentioned the word seeker, that you've always been a seeker of, spiritual practices and the way we function spiritually and our bodies as beings, everything put together that we are and how we show up in the world. Do you think that you being a seeker, having a level of curiosity, is maybe what helped you keep those tablets on your bedside table and not take them? Because every time you looked at them, were you just seeking other answers? You were just seeking information. So maybe, at least what I'm hearing is that it's your curiosity and your sense of being a seeker that kind of kept you away from taking something that a professional prescribed to you.
I think so, yes. I think it's also because the more you seek, the more you find, and the more you find, the more you know, and the more you know,
Beautiful.
the more trouble you get in sometimes. But but also the better you can take yourself out of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think so. But I also think it really had to do with the fact that I was at a point where I'm like, my mother's been struggling with depression and anxiety and addiction her whole life. Her whole family has some form of depression and anxiety. And so I was really like starting to look at that and starting to look, weirdly enough, after I've done my research project, the physicality of the
Mm.
physicality of
Yes.
depression and anxiety, the effort of depression and anxiety, the all those kind of things. And I'm like, I don't feel I have that. I think if I really thought there's no way out,
Mm.
I would take it. That's why I kept it
Yeah.
there as well, because I always kept it there like as kind of a lifeline.
Mm.
Um, but also as kind of a reminder that somebody doesn't know you after asking 5 questions or 10 questions. It's like,
Yeah.
and so
That's
that
scary.
whole idea of just prescribing medicine to someone. So I think it also made me get to know myself better, because I'm like, if I'm telling you that you can't possibly know me well enough to prescribe stuff that's going to change my brain chemistry, that's like harsh. That's like hectic, right? And it's not really for me, there's no return because I've seen it in my family.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, but do I know me? can
Oh,
I
good
actually can
question.
I actually sit with you and say, you
Ooh,
don't know me because this and this and this? Can I do
yes.
that? And then the answers were quite like, okay. And then I'm like, okay, so maybe that's where I should start.
That is awesome. So you started asking yourself questions. What kind of questions were they? Do you remember?
I do. For me, because I like spiritual stuff and spiritual ideas and concepts and these hacks, mind hacks and spiritual hacks, like I love them because I always think, but like why? Why do they work? Like why do gratitude work? Why does it make such a big difference
Yeah.
in your life? And I don't want to necessarily, I like to practice things because I don't like necessarily learning from scientists, because it's nice to discover it yourself
Mm-hmm.
almost. Like I can give you the scientific explanation, but am I am I feeling it in my body? Am I experiencing it in my body? So a big thing for me is always my body, right? I think as a dancer, because I've been trained as a dancer, there is a certain amount of feeling and sensing with our bodies that normal people don't necessarily get to do or understand how to do. And then also like concepts like forgiveness. For me personally, one of the first things was really the concept of forgiveness, because I
Sure.
sat with all of it. I looked at my family. I looked at what I know about them. I looked at the stuff, because you know that thing that always say, and even in dancing, I teach my children like that. You have to be current, right? You have to be in the present moment. And I call it current because of my research project
Yes.
and where we're going with the next phase of it. But it's like, it's that saying that if you have depression, it means you're living in the past, and if you have anxiety, it means you're living in the future. So and so I was looking at that and I'm like, what is making me so heavy? Like, what is giving me this feeling of heaviness and darkness? And
Yeah.
what is making me feel like that every day? Um, and then it came back to all those things, like we like to hold the grudges, and the
Yes.
and
Yes.
so I
Oh,
really went on a
tightly.
mission every night I'm going to choose one person that I can forgive today.
Wow.
And if I get to a name that I cannot forgive, I'm gonna at least tell the universe that I'm willing to learn how to forgive them.
Wow. Oh,
And because I was a dancer, which I know now why, after my research project, there was a certain embodiment of forgiveness that happened as well, right? There's a release happening. There's an expansion happening in your actual muscles. And so every night before bed, I literally just went, who can I forgive tonight?
wow.
Right. And I
Wow.
I went deep in. I'm like, I'm gonna go in for
Yeah.
the ones. Then as it progressed, literally the next day I felt better. I know it sounds weird. It's like
That's incredible. I've never heard this approach to it. That is awesome. Tell me
because I
more.
also have this imagery of almost like a one of those fizzy tablets that you put in the water,
Yes.
and before I go to bed, I just dissolve, right? And so after the first night, the next I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I noticed the sunshine and I noticed, and then stuff started happening, right? Um, and then eventually I got to a point where I one day laughed at myself and I'm like, Martin, this is ridiculous, because I literally one night I was in my bed and I felt like Oprah. I'm like, I forgive you and I forgive you and I forgive you. But it becomes that thing where
That's brilliant.
once you start like feeling what it feels like, and you kind of really see it as I don't want to call it a selfish thing, but it's a very energetic thing that happens to you when you forgive. It's a very
Yeah. Expansive.
it's an energetic thing. And then it almost at some point for me it became impersonal, and not impersonal from a perspective that I'm detaching from certain things. Impersonal in the sense of it becomes a thing about vibration and
Yeah.
energy. And it becomes a thing of I'm letting it go. I'm
Sure.
forgiving it. It is the
You're letting go of that energy, which
yes,
you're
I'm
keeping stuck in
looking
your
at it
body.
and I'm seeing it, and there's a certain amount of gratitude for it as well, right? Because no energy can be made or destroyed. It all gets recycled, right? So
Yeah.
I also have this belief that we always talk about it, that there's no such thing as negative energy. And you can't tell everyone that, because it's like, oh, you're ignoring. Doesn't mean I don't have bad days, but all energy is energy.
Yeah.
And so a lot of time, it's like, what do I do with that energy? What do I, this is, so if anybody is angry at you or really yelling at you or screaming at you, which sometimes happens, or somebody is really angry at you, that is a tremendous amount of energy coming your way,
Yeah.
right?
Projected at you like a
And
child
when
at
you
you. Yeah.
forgive, it's almost like the forgiveness dissolves the identification with what it is you're saying to
Yeah.
me, and and it becomes energy. It's
Yeah,
the weirdest
sure.
thing. It's like it's almost like there's a filter that filters that amount of energy for something that's cool to your system, and then you get this surge of energy where it's like, okay, oh, so it's like alchemy almost. I'm obsessed with alchemy and how do I change energy into better things and greater things.
Amazing.
But yeah, forgiveness for me was a big thing,
Sure.
big thing.
That's
It makes you
incredible.
lighter. It just makes you
Yes.
lighter. And then once you understand that, like forgiveness for me leads to like surrender,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then after that, for me, I understood gratitude because gratitude has always been a thing of I'm saying these rhymes and I'm thinking of these things I'm grateful for, but I really just want to sleep today and die. That's what it feels like when you have depression. It's like, it's not
Yeah.
nice. I really
Yeah.
just, okay, so you say I must be
Yeah.
grateful for stuff. So now I'm grateful for stuff. Nothing is helping. I'm grateful for stuff. I can name a list of things that I know I should be grateful
Yeah.
for, right? But if you're on the lower part of the scale, it's almost like,
Yeah.
okay, I first need to get to a point where I get rid of some weight. And
Ah,
then maybe I can wake up and see, oh, the sun is shining. And the moment that happens, you go, okay, I'm going to be grateful for this.
yeah.
I'm going
That's
to be grateful for
beautiful.
this. That's it. Because I really feel that I'm grateful for this. I'm not forcing any gratefulness. So for me, like it worked in those steps, I think.
Beautiful. Oh, I
Um,
love that. You haven't even watched my most recent video, which is exactly about gratitude, which is that
uh,
shift from the negative heaviness to look for something lighter. I mean, same, but different to what you're saying.
yes,
But absolutely what you're saying is, and I've found that as well when people are going through a state of heaviness, so whether it's depression or loss of some sort or whatever trauma it is, and people, come up with that false sense of positivity and just be grateful, just look on the bright side, everything will be okay, this
yes,
too shall pass. What is the gift in this? Everything happens for a reason. I cannot deal with any of that. And I've
yeah,
been around when someone says that to someone else, and it's a great unkindness because if you don't have that capacity and you're feeling depleted, then absolutely trying to just be grateful for the sun right now just doesn't feel
no,
authentic. It's a
no,
start, it's something you can do instead of focusing on, you know, like internalizing the self-hatred or whatever's going on even more, sure. But I love what you've said here about what helped you. And I think that this, Martin, thank you for sharing that so vulnerably. Because I know for me, it's opened up a few things because there's definitely some work I can still do in the realm of forgiveness. You know this, other people know this. But just the way that you've said it, especially in terms of the energy, which is a lot of the work that you do, just on a core level scientific approach when it comes to energy and um, what's it, protons and neutrons and all of it firing together. Like Dr. Joe
yes,
Dispenza's everything.
yes.
What is it? What you fire together wires together, the parts in the brain. So I love the way you've described this. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, this is
Yeah,
such a
because it's
gift.
all vibration. It is all vibration. But if you're really
Mm,
in that dark place, your vibration is not a nice vibration.
mm,
And so everything you experience is just going to re-establish the not nice
yeah,
vibration, right? That's how
yeah,
it works. And so it's really, really hard for me, well, impossible for me to in those stages go, I'm going to be grateful for something. I can't. I
yeah,
tried it and I can't. I
yeah.
would rather go, okay, here I am, because self-forgiveness is also a thing, right? That's where it
Yes.
starts. And so I forgive myself in this moment for even assuming that all I'm going through is wrong, is so wrong. Like
Yes.
I forgive myself for that. And then you feel
Yes.
lighter because it's like, okay,
Yeah.
here I am.
Yeah.
This is what it is. So it's almost
Yeah.
like accepting, but it's like accepting with some action
Yes.
involved. It's like,
Has
because
to
you
be
know me in
action.
action.
I was just gonna say, you cannot exist. You have to coexist with action. And that's what makes
Yeah.
you such an incredible creator. And what I've witnessed with you is, how you create, how you show up in life is because you are so ready and willing to look internally. Like that's the work you always do first, which is incredible. So I've seen a little bit of your journey as whenever there's something that feels like a roadblock, um, and for the sake of this episode, let's say a challenge for your mental well-being, your emotional well-being, physical being, whatever it is. What I've noticed with you is your first stop is internal. You look within immediately. So I just wanted to
Yes.
acknowledge that for you and for anyone watching is, that's been what I've witnessed, a game changer for how you keep showing up.
Yeah, and I think it's because of the fact that you see stuff as energy. And I've always been fascinated with the idea that it's that whole thing of if God is with you, no man can be against you,
Mhm.
right? All of it comes from the same place. So if energy is this thing that it goes through us all the time, really
Yeah.
the only thing that is our problem is the stuff we put in front of the light coming in, right?
Mm,
And that is really yours to move away. It really
yes.
is. And so, yes, with the biofield work, we're going from the outside, we're exploring what
Yes.
happens if you actually harmonize the outside. Um, but that outside is still like it still changes you in a way. If you do the biofield work and if you harmonize the outside, that's a different story. It's
Mm,
still from an inside place, right? It's
mm,
still from a I make the decision. um
yes.
but it's always that thing of why, because there must be a place where you can go, okay, if you really believe in energy, if you really, really believe in energy, I believe, then you will never find yourself saying, oh, that person has such a bad energy. Because, um,
I'm
is it
waiting.
really? Energy is energy, right?
Yeah,
Energy is energy. So how it gets to you, that's your thing.
your
That does
filter.
not say people that abuse other people and those kind of things. Obviously, there is
Sure.
that line. But so often I feel in the spiritual world, it's like this, oh, that person is such a bad energy. But what is because nothing, also in the biofield work, we realize that nothing happens by itself, right? No
Mhm.
human is an island.
Mm. There's
So,
a resistance and a
um,
pull.
yes, some people I know I do not ever want to spend time with, but my best friend, who's my best friend, can spend hours with them
Mm.
and they don't irritate her, which means, are they really a bad energy? Or is it just something in me? Like we tend to so quickly go bad and good, bad and
Yeah,
good. This is a
yeah,
bad
yeah,
energy. This is a good energy. I must get rid
yeah.
of this energy. Um, I'm more interested in how do I live with all these energies?
Mm.
How
That's
do
such a
I?
great perspective.
Because I have to live with all these energies. I'm living on a planet with different energies and different frequencies. So if I keep going, I don't want to live with this energy. I don't want to live with this energy. What am I then left with? Am I not robbing myself of energy? I don't know. I don't know.
I
It's
love
up
that
in there.
perspective. I love that
But
perspective. Amazing. Tell us more about, and it's so exciting. So this is something you and I are working on, this biofield repatterning. That
yes.
is your beautiful brainchild. And I'm so honored that you've invited me to come and co-create with you and play with you on this journey. And I know we can't give too much away, but will you share just a little, an overview, an introduction of what the potential is for biofield repatterning in terms of our overall well-being?
Yes. Okay. So when I did my research project, movement analysis is about analyzing movement, right? Living movement, robot movement, animal movement, any movement. It's this amazing genius guy, Rudolf Laban, who in the early 1900s, it seemed that that's when all the geniuses did their things. He designed this whole way of looking at movement and analyzing movement, right? And so it's got all these different aspects to it. Which space is one of them, shape is one of them, effort or effort qualities, emotional qualities is one of them. And so when I did my research project, he designed these scales that you do, and he drew it back to sacred geometry and the Platonic solids, like the cube, the icosahedron, the dodecahedron. And he brought it all back to looking at the human anatomy, looking at how humans move, the kinetic chains in humans, the muscular structure, all of those things. And he developed these scales that are done in the Platonic solids, right? And there's a big emphasis on the points in space and the pathways in space, and really taking note of what happens in your body when you go to certain pathways, what happens to your body when you go to certain points. And so from a physical perspective, it's quite cool because it's like scales, like you do in singing or piano, which I've never really experienced as a professional dancer. And I'm an analytical person, so I'm like, yay, scales, I love scales, right? And then for my research project, I started playing with these scales, and I really started seeing like what happens with my body if I do the icosahedron, for example, and I move in the icosahedron in the morning. What happens to my emotional and spiritual and mental state throughout the day when I become more like water? Because the icosahedron is associated with water if you look at different other spiritual practices, right? And so I started making all these connections between the scales and the spiritual quality of the scales. And then I started playing around with icosahedron. What happens? And I noticed that I become more fluid. Literally, it's like I can't even say it in other words. I
Amazing.
become more fluid.
As if by
I'm
magic.
better at, yeah, I'm better at solving problems. I don't get so stuck on I want to do it this way. Like, and so I started playing with all these things, and then with my Reiki knowledge, I kind of designed a a program that I did for my research project where I kind of activated people's biofield, like working on the flow of their biofield
Mm.
with movement to make them more harmonious in space, right? So the whole idea is if we fix that, because energy precedes matter. Before you were born, there was energy, and then there was a cell, and then there was, right? And so since we got brains, we changed that energy pattern, and then we got to a point in our life where that pattern was then set. And so my whole thought was, can I change if I change the structure of this energy field around someone with movement, right? Because movement magnetizes, and movement creates energy. And so if I rub my hands like this, obviously there's a magnetic field.
Yeah.
And so I started looking at the biofield, the science of the biofield, plasma and ether and all those things, and like how movement magnetizes and energizes. And so I did that on a lot of participants, and the results were just like ridiculously incredible. Um, and then when I spoke to you and we started developing it, I'm like, okay, I did that for people as a therapist, as a practitioner, right? And I know it works because all of the results were like, there wasn't like any result that was not
Yeah.
kind of going in the same direction. So it was there. Um, and then we were talking, and we like, let's see, obviously the Laban work exists, but can we change this more from a spiritual and wellness lens to design in exercises and physical stuff that people can do to get to know their biofield better. Um, and for me, the whole purpose of it is know thyself, right? Because the more I do it, the more it opens you up to the energy that's available to you. And so we
Untapped.
kind of taking it from the outside in, because all our thinking patterns and all our behavioral things and our stuff, belief systems,
Yeah.
like it creates a certain energy, right?
Yeah.
And then that energy in turn feeds back to, it's like the torus field or the
Yes.
human biofield. Like it's a constant cycle. And so if I change that, and if I become more aware of space and the information that's available in space and the energy that's available in space, and I become more harmonious with that, then we're taking it from the outside in. So instead of doing Reiki or those kind of things where you're going from the inside out and we fix you, and then afterwards we test your aura or your biofield and we see it made a difference, right? Why don't we go to the source and we change the biofield? We dance with the biofield, and see what happens. And obviously the results is it's just,
The
and so
results
I
are
guess it's the
amazing.
same principle as Tai Chi or
Yeah.
Qigong, but it, for me, it's coming from a place of understanding. And
Mm.
so for me, it's like a third option to well-being or spirituality, because
Yeah.
I've never experienced it. I do believe your biofield is your subconscious mind. Um, so I do believe we are repatterning the subconscious mind. But the nice thing about it is there's no psychology involved. There's no deep thinking involved. And I believe the deep thinking is necessary. But I think, like you and I said the other day, we are imaginative beings, and we can easy, when we see
Yes.
a mainstream thing happening, we can easily go, oh, I'm feeling that. Your imagination takes over, right?
Yeah.
So what happens with this is you let go and you let God. You repattern, you magnetize the energy around you, and you go, okay, my job is done. So then what I find happens is, like, these
Amazing.
ideas come to you, or you think of someone that you're like, I'm still really angry at that person. So it's not like a delving and a deep diving and
Yeah.
a psychological thing. It's, to me, a very spiritual, physical thing.
Yeah. A
And it
release.
makes you see, yeah, and it makes you see your body and your brain
Mm.
as these tools to have a relationship with source, really, for me personally. So it's like you get to know yourself as an energetic being. There's a
Mm.
lot of stuff you read, and
Sure.
we understand it mentally, and we like, yes, I'm energy, and yes, I'm pure light, and yes, I'm all those things, right? But until you experience it and you see the role your body plays and the role your brain plays, and I call it brain because a lot of people, for me, they confuse brain and mind.
Yes.
Your brain is an organ that does amazing things, right? But your mind is
Our
more
minds are the
than that,
creative ones that
right?
create stories and dramas and keep us stuck and
And so what
frustrated.
I found with the research is, literally, because we are looking at connections, we're looking at points in space, we're looking at relationships in space, and that affects us. Like, most of the stuff that was said in the research studies was, I feel so aware of everything around me. I feel inspired. I started talking to my mother, who I haven't spoken to in 20 years. Relationships. So it's like that rewiring that you're talking
Yes.
about.
Yeah.
Um, but it's happening on an energetic level. It's happening outside
Amazing.
of us. And that makes the pattern for everything that happens inside of us. So,
Sure.
yeah, it goes deep. And I'm sure I'll go much deeper than that, but I'm
Oh,
talking too
this is
much.
just the surface, but I'm so glad and grateful. Thank you for sharing this with everyone. Thank you for sharing it with me and inviting me in. And I cannot wait to see where this takes us, how
I
this
mean, either.
helps every single person, us, everyone that we touch directly and indirectly, to just really expand out beyond all of our limitations that we've created consciously and subconsciously, right? So, Martin, thank you. I know that we're going to be chatting again and again and again and
I
again.
hope it works. We can chat for more hours. We should just open up a whole day and people can drop in and out as they
We'll do
want to.
that. We're going to have to do that. We'll do like a masterclass something. Ask Martin anything, and then I'll just filter them through. Amazing. My darling, thank you so much. I'm so grateful. And
Thank
I'll
you.
share Martin's information if you want to find out more about biofield repatterning. I'll share the details in the show notes. In the meantime, where can we find you if someone wants to check out the work, the incredible work that you do, and just get to know you a little bit better?
Currently, I just immigrated to the United States, and I don't have my papers yet, so I'm not allowed to work per
Mm-hmm.
se. You can get a hold of me on Facebook or Instagram.
Sure.
my email address. I don't know if you're going to put that in the
I'll
thing.
put
You
it
can
in.
put that all in the thing. But yeah,
Perfect.
currently I'm not allowed to physically work.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of time to experience and explore. So if you want to explore with me and have fun,
Yes.
let's do that.
Amazing.
Let's grow
Let's
and do
create.
things, you know?
Awesome.
Yes.
Amazing. Everyone, I would love to know your input, your insights. Let us know what you thought of our conversation, our chat. What has excited you? I know when Martin first shared this with me, my mind was just blown. And every time we have conversations, there's just more and more shift. So I think really what I want to invite you to do today from this episode is watch it again, because there was so much. And then also be open to possibilities and changes from something, I'm going to say as simple, which we know isn't always, but with you it is forgiveness, which is huge. So from that place of forgiveness, and then looking at our biofields and how we can change and shift and repattern that, how much more can we create in our lives? So I invite you to be curious, stay curious like Martin is in his life and what has brought him here. And looking forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here.